On last Sunday's live stream, I ended up making a review of the DJI Avata Drone and the DJI Goggles too. Now, normally when I get a product, I'll talk about it on a live stream and then make a proper review video later. However, just because we covered so much in that live stream, I've decided to put that out as my main review. In that video, which you're about to see, we covered things such as my thoughts on the Avata Drone, even looking at things such as how many poles the motor's got, and we spent a lot of time talking about the new DJI Goggles 2. I shared with you my thoughts on them, my criticism with the various problems I feel these goggles have, and even talk about them compared to the Goggles V2 when using it with the Avata as well. I hope you found this video interesting. It is going to be a little bit all over the place. You're not going to find any nice posh flying or any exotic locations, but what I promise you is you are getting my full thoughts on where this product is today. Now, I bought this drone with my own money, as supported on this channel by its viewers. I would not have been able to make this content without the support of my Patreons, and I want to say a massive thank you to all of them. I will be making a lot more content about this product in the future, but if you think you would like to support us to allow us to keep making independent content like this, but including the content like tearing the goggles down like I did in a video I shared a few days ago, please do consider checking the link to the Patreon out. It's only through the support of people supporting us on Patreon am I able to keep making content on the channel. Anyway, let's get on with it. I hope you find it interesting. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and if you do have any questions that I've missed, please do put it in there and I will try and answer it as soon as I can. There is a lot to talk about here. I'm going to start with some opinions on the drone, and then I'm going to move to the goggles, because the goggles is where we're going to be talking about things the most. So, the Avata. I really like this drone. People are going to call me shill. I paid for this with the help of people, obviously, who donate and support the channel. Massive thank you to everyone. But I have to say, this product is actually very good. Everything you think about DJI and FPV, throw out the window and start again, because this is what the first FPV drone should have been. They shouldn't have messed with that. It should have been this. We have a Cinewhoop. It is built like a brick crap house. Honestly, these plastics are absolutely solid. Genuinely, I do not know how anyone's going to break one of these ducts, let alone have to replace it. They are available to get, but this plastic is not normal DJI plastic. This isn't like you normally find on the FPV drone and all of this. This stuff is hard as hell. It scratches like it. You can hear that. It's completely different. This top section, again, is hard as hell as well. It really is. The overall build is nice. The quality is good, very good. This is all a bit arduous when you first feel it. It doesn't move. It's just the way they've got the GPS unit at the top. You've got visual positioning. Interesting. You've got basically two parts of the vision in positioning. So you've got the optical and you've got the TOF sensor. In normal mode, both of these work. In sport mode, only the visual works. The TOF sensor doesn't. So that's worth taking into account. You've obviously got the props, you've got the motors, and you've got the camera on the front. Now, whilst this product looks simple, okay, where this thing actually absolutely shines is the way it flies, but the camera. The camera on this drone genuinely is night and day compared to the FPV camera. It is frankly fantastic. It's just good. I can't tell you how good it is other than saying it genuinely is very, very nice indeed. I've been sharing some images on my Discord with some guys. I'll actually put one up. Let me find one to share with you. I'll put a little bit of video up in a minute on my first couple of flights. Genuinely, right, the image quality from this product, it's just decent. It really, really is. Right, I want to share you guys this, right? And this is just a quick screenshot. This is a screenshot. This isn't a still. Okay, this isn't a captured 4K still. This is a screenshot from a 4K recording. So I captured this with Windows screenshot. I have it on a dedicated button up here, that feature there. And this is a screenshot that I took off the 4K video. And it is genuinely stunning. It really, really is. The image quality is just good. It really, really is. I've got Goggles recording, which is also fantastic as well. I'll share some of that in a minute. We'll have a look at that in a minute. We'll look at some of the footage. So genuinely, the camera is night and day. Anyone who's used the FPV drone, I out and out said it's a waste of time from a video point of view. They have fixed that in this, okay? It looks great. It just looks fantastic. I've got no complaints. Now, there are a few quirks with this drone, but the quirks are all DJI software, okay? So, to talk about some things I don't like about this a minute, okay? Number one, the settings for the camera for both image stabilization and field of view have no impact on the live stream. Now, what I mean by that is this. You can select normal, wide, or super wide, and you can select off, rock steady, or horizon steady. None of them are reflected in the live feed. So what that means is you're not seeing what you're recording on the card, especially with regards to field of view. That is a real annoyance because you don't know what it's like until you record, stop, and play back. Now, I have created an image just to show you, which shows you the difference between the modes. If I just put that up there, and this will be in the review. There you can see the difference in view between the modes. So the blue is the normal. I took 3 recordings in exactly the same place. It was hovering, that's why it's on an angle. I could do it on a table and do it perfectly flat. I might do that for the review. But that gives you an idea between the super wide, wide, and normal field of view. Now, it is a frustration that you can't see it through the goggles. That's just an annoyance. They need to sort that. Because if you want to line up a shot, how do you know what you want? And it's a silly, silly thing. Silly, silly thing. So, that's one of my quirks. No indication of latency mode on this. So, the spec for this is that it does either 30 or 40 milliseconds, depending on what mode you're in. However, at no point does it tell you what the latency of the system is. So we don't know what modes have low latency and what modes don't. Now, because I'm flying with this, I can't really tell you at the moment because I can't feel it. But at the moment, there's no way to tell what latency mode you're in. Just, you know, what are we in 4K 60, 4K 50? What are we in 2.7K 100? I don't know. So that is a problem. There's some silliness that they can fix, but it's not 100%. Now, there is some other quirks around it. 4x3 mode has some limitations. You only have the option of using what's it called? The stabilization software if you turn off image stabilization. Overall, I think the drone is very good. How fast is it? I've only been using it on this thing. It's fairly quick. The speeds are listed on the website. DJI don't lie on that. It's quick enough to get yourself into trouble. Put it that way. You can use gyroflow with it. Yes, absolutely, which is fantastic. DJI, so there's some quirks there. There's definitely some quirks there. Now, whilst I do like the drone, and genuinely I really do like the drone, we're going to go back to the overhead. Here is where things get more interesting, because these goggles have an unbelievable form factor, right? The form factor on these goggles is frankly amazing. If you want me to do some comparisons, here's Avata HD. Let's put them next to Avata HD. You can see there. It is dramatic. It is nothing short of dramatic in size. It really, really is. Put them next to a set of Skyzone 04Xs with a HD0 module on the front. It is amazing. The form factor on these goggles is just fantastic. Honestly, genuinely, it is mind-blowingly good. It is just good. And if you want to see compared to the V2, it's just night and day. Let me just zoom a little so you guys can see. It's probably in a bit close. There you go. You can see that it's just ridiculous in size. It genuinely is. It's just madness, the difference. Okay, that is fantastic. Okay, size and weight. Screens look really, really good. OLED screens are ridiculously bright. You do not need the brightness that's in here. Image quality from them is really good. The new software rewrite is really nice. DJI have done a good job of the software rewrite. The goggles are dramatically quieter. Yeah, we'll come on to the antennas in a sec. Dramatically quieter than the old goggles. And they do have some other nice features. They have built-in speakers. If you saw my short earlier on YouTube, they have built-in speakers. They have... They will stream to them. You can stream to them from DLNA if you do it a certain way. I've got that working. And you have a proximity center. And they do come with this. Everyone should include this. This is just a fantastic idea, DJI, as well. Everyone should include it. And then you've got the optics. So, look, that's the good. That is the good. The speakers, if anyone wants to know where the speakers are there. I'll refocus in a minute. And the speakers are in those grills there. Fit is better than the V2, but not as good as it could be. There is still light leak. There is still also... I'm finding they're pushing quite heavy on the nose. Okay? They really are pushing down quite heavy on the nose for me. They're not ideal. But I'll come on to that in the bad. Okay? So that's in the bad. Also, the antennas... flip up like that, really nice. They are not MMCX, they are MCX connectors. If you give them a wobble, they will come out. So, different connector. You're not going to get a normal MCX adapter in there for SMA, but there is the opportunity to swap it out. That's the connector there. I'll come in and show a bit higher later on. That's the antenna there overall. So, that is the good. The image quality is good. The field of view is large, but I'm going to come on to that, and I actually think that's bad. Does it recognize when it's on the head or just switches off? You know what? I need to check that. I believe it only switches off when you take them off the face. If it was on your head, it would probably think it's on. We'll try that. We'll try that live in a minute. Okay. What are the speakers for? The speakers are there to give you system noise, and if you're streaming to it, you have audio. You have headphone socket, SD card, headphones, no analog input, headphone socket, SD card, USB-C for out to the DJI Fly app, which allows you to have live feed, and a new power connector, not the same as the original DJI one, and they have a different power input range of only 7 to 9 volts. 7 to 9 volt limited. Okay, there is no analog input on these goggles. There is no HDMI output, but they will go to the Fly app, and it looks very, very good. That is the good. Now I'm going to talk about the bad. Some people will agree some of this up because some of this stuff is subjective. Okay, number one, bad. I don't like the optics on these goggles. I find there are two issues with the optics on these goggles. They are difficult to get both displays in focus over the full field of view of the display. And when I do get it in focus, I am easily able to see the crossover of the two eyelets. Now, what I mean by that is if you take your DJI V2s and spread the IPG too wide, you get that overlap where it doesn't look quite nice. What I am finding on the optics on these is if you bring it so it's perfect, I can't see the edges of the screen. If I bring it out so I can see the edges of the screen, I can feel that optics line. Now, that is mostly in the menus. When I'm flying, that pretty much fades away, but it is there nonetheless. Secondly, I think the field of view is too wide. I think they've overdone it on these goggles. It's impossible to see either side of the screen all of the time. It's too much. Genuinely, I think they should have gone with a smaller field of view on these goggles. What is the spec field of view? I didn't actually look. Is it 52 degrees? Let's just look at the spec. I didn't actually look. I think they're too big. I think it should have been smaller. Genuinely should have been smaller. Was the goggles 2 field of view 51 degrees. It says 51 single screen. I think it could do with a zoom out. I would like to take it back a bit. It's too big to see either side on these goggles. It was on the goggles 2, you could do it. It didn't feel as wide. It just didn't feel as wide. But on this, I find it difficult to get everything perfect and not have optical issues. So I'm not going to say the optics are great. I'm not saying the optics are bad, but I'm saying I think the field of view is too much, which then compromises the optics. That's my opinion on it. Next, the anti-fog on these goggles is close to useless. In fact, I'm not even convinced it works. They fog up like hell. There is a fan, which is inside, and you can hear it running, and it seems to run very, very quiet. It does increase as the temperature gets up, but I have still had fogging issues on these goggles in South Wales at night. The anti-fog is literally non-existent. Now, I don't know if they can fix this by jacking the firmware up to increase the fan speed. It's useless. The anti-fog is completely useless. Completely useless. Also, I do think the optics are very close to the eyes, and that doesn't help as well. The optics stick out quite a lot on these goggles. Let me just go to the overhead. Your face is very, very close to those optics. Really close. Now, genuinely, the anti-fog on these is bloody useless, right? The anti-fog on these is crap. This is worse. This is just non-existent. Close to non-existent. So, that's another issue with them. Touchpad is just not great, I'll be honest with you. Touchpad, it works fine, but it's too easy to accidentally go into a menu. You'll, instead of swiping out of something, you'll swipe down and change a setting you didn't want to change. I really wish they'd have had the swipe with the back button. At least if I'd have had a back button, I could have just backed out rather than swiped out. Also, I don't know if you found this, Ken, or anyone else using these. There are menus you go into and you can't get out of. Power cable and power limits is a bit of an issue. It's okay. But the goggles are lovely, but they're not perfect. Now, yesterday, I got to fly the Avata with V2s and these goggles. And genuinely, from an image quality point of view, there is very little in it. If you own V2s and you want an Avata, just go and buy the drone and don't upgrade the goggles right now. Genuinely, there isn't a lot in it. The image quality is better in these goggles. The form factor is amazing. I like the menus, but it's not night and day from an image quality point of view. It really, really isn't. Don't think the OLED is making a dramatic difference. This is not like going from old analog goggles to HDO2s or Skyzone 04Xs. It is a very mild step up in image quality. Yes, it looks lovely. Yes, it looks better. Yes, it is nice. How's the range when using the V2 goggles? I can't comment completely. I'm not a person that flies a lot of range. I'm not a person, and I'm not going to openly say that here. I've done some tests. There's not a lot in it. V2s with a good patch antenna will outperform these, but that's inevitable. The goggles itself is good, but there are some issues here. So, can they fix these? Let me go down here. Optics. The optics is less of a problem if I could make the image smaller. So, a zoom out function like you've got on the Orcas. I think there's a zoom out on the Skyzone 04Xs as well. I can't remember off the top of my head. A zoom out option to just bring it back a bit would help. Okay, it really would, for me. Now, you have to take into account, optics is very much subjective each person. Another person with a different head and face size may not have those issues. That's the problem. So, I can only give you my experience. In flight, the optics are fine. But there's glaring in the menus I can't get rid of. I can never get rid of the glaring in the menus. So all of the menu options to me have streaks off them. No matter what I do, the menus have streaks coming off them. I just can't get them crystal clear like I would expect. Interestingly, what the Avatar goggles, and you've got to be careful with the wording here, Avata and Avatar, the Avatar goggles, they have nailed the optics and field of view on these. Absolutely brilliant. I would have preferred them to have made them a bit bigger, a little bit bigger, and solved that optics issue a bit, dropped the optics in a bit further and improved the fans and improved the overall behavior rather than shrinking them down absolutely to minimum size. Right, there's some things I do want to make clear. There is no hidden V2 compatibility, V2 system, FPV system compatibility in this. DJI have not done it, okay? It's not there. For them to do it, they have to completely port it over from the first system. It's not a copy and paste. If they do this, it will be a big job. Okay, so what we believe, and this is not fact, please do not expect what I say here to actually happen, but we have very strong belief that these goggles will have support for the following models: the FPV Drone, the Mini 3, and the Mavic 3. That is what is hidden in the firmware as far as we understand it. That has not been allowed to release yet, but that is sitting there tucked away. Okay? And an FPV unit mode, which is possibly the same as the drone. Okay? There is no hidden FPV system mode in this. Okay? If they bring it, they are going to have to do a lot of work. It's going to take time. Now, there is a really good option for people right now. I'm not being funny, right? And that's these. These work with both drones. These, hopefully, we believe are going to work with the new ear units. I know you want the form factor, but I'll be honest, 400 odd quid, these are still a seriously good option. A seriously good option. And genuinely, you're not getting a lot. Now, I know I'm going to hop onto some questions in a minute before, and then we'll have a look at some footage. I've got a lot to show you. I've got some bits to go through. Unbelievable, 554 people. I think the goggles are good, but they're not without compromise. And that's the thing. That's where my stance is on it. That's where I feel. I think there's a lot of work to do on the software. There are some real quirks on the software that need fixing. That's for sure. But that's usual DJI. Nothing fantastic. For me, the big one between the drone and the goggles is they need to sort it so you can have a visual representation of the field of view. That's quite important. How are you meant to know what you're seeing? Now, as for this new ear unit that's apparently coming, okay, we know there's an OcuSync 3 ear unit coming. It really seems to appear that this ear unit is going to be the same as this drone, basically. Same image, same options, same everything. If that happens, regardless of how expensive it is going to blow people's minds because the image quality on this drone is bloody fantastic. Honestly, it is that good. In live view and in recording. The image is just night and day better. It really, really is. Now, I've only got this, And I've had to learn to use this, and I'm not going to call this what I've been calling it on my Discord, because I'll probably get my stream banned. But there is a term I've used for this, and it's, yeah, it's an interesting device. And I'm going to share with you a few thoughts on this. This has turned into a review, actually. I went into trying this thinking I'm going to hate it. And I sort of really like this, genuinely. For the first sort of 2 or 3 minutes, I'm like, this is weird. You sort of get used to it. And the worst thing about it is the dot on the screen, because the dot on the screen becomes a target for the holes you want to put the drone through. So you start looking, going, I can get through that gap, and then you point it at it and go through it. And then you sort of get used to it. And look, it's got its quirks. It's not for everyone, right? But I got to admit, it's a bit of fun. I think my kids are going to love this. My kids, I've struggled to really get them involved in aircraft and drones up till now. They're going to try this tomorrow. The plan is tomorrow. And I generally think they're going to like this. It's not a traditional flying experience, but it's hard not to have a bit of fun with it. It's genuinely hard not to have a bit of fun with it. My wife wants the motion controllers. Yeah, I think your wife will definitely enjoy this because it does have haptic feedback. That's all I'm going to say. So I went into this absolutely thinking, I don't want this. And I'm not sure I want to own it. But that isn't to say I don't think it's quite fun. I'll be honest. I think it's quite fun. Now, I've not had any issues with range at all. I've not pushed it, though. I'm genuinely not pushed it. I'm not convinced. People need to get something in their head about range. Now, I've seen a video that a guy's getting range on which doesn't look particularly good. But genuinely, guys, this drone is not for flying 5 kilometers from you. I'm sorry, but it isn't. It is not a drone you want to be flying more than 20, 30 meters in the air. Max. Absolute max. It's not designed for it. It's not. This thing is a low, fast, in tight spaces drone. I felt more comfortable flying around my kids in the sense of, with them playing in the park than I have on any other aircraft, simply because of the setup. Nick did a great penetration test. Absolutely. But this is not a drone that's designed to be 150 meters in the air. You get some good wind, it's going to struggle. It's not designed for it. It's just not designed for it. And this is why I think this drone is an absolute bang on from DJI. If we think about the FPV drone, right? What was wrong with the FPV drone was it wasn't very good at FPV image quality, but it also wasn't very good at acro because it was heavy, it would break easily, it would damage. The second you flew it hard, you'd break it and have to send it back. I don't care. I have crashed this 3 times already, right? It's fine. It bounces off. The plastics are solid. It's got all of the benefits of DJI, but this time with none of the downsides. The first FPV drone was brittle, fragile, easy to damage, impossible to repair, to get parts for. It just wasn't a good. The camera was useless. The image quality was terrible. It did nothing well. This thing, I cannot genuinely say more. I think it does everything it does really well. And the thing is about it, right? It's actually quite cheap. It's actually quite cheap. If you add up pricing a drone from scratch, it's not expensive. You add up pricing a Cinewoop with everything you'll need, it's more than this. Go on Rotor Riot, it's $1,500 for a ready-to-fly Cinewoop. Go on Get FPV, it's about $1,350, $1,400, but by the time you put everything on you need, you're close, right? I priced a Cinewoop on Get FPV and Rotor Riot, and you're between $1,800 and $1,900 with the GoPro. This is cheaper. Would I recommend? I'm going to have to buy the Fly More package. I'm going to have to buy the Fly More because I need more batteries. You're going to need more than one battery. Battery life on the Goggles 2, I'm still doing that. I've not really got enough continuous flight time. Yeah, I can't say at the moment. I'm going to do a lot of testing and we'll come to that. Are the batteries from the V2 compatible with the Goggles 2? Yes. Same battery. They've made a couple of changes, a couple of nice little quality of life changes, actually. Let me go to the whole overhead. So, this DC connector is different to stop you putting the other one in. Smaller, more like a smaller laptop connector. That reminds me of what's on most HP laptops now. This does. Power connector, still USB-C. But what they've now done is put a little clip on it, which is nice. So it holds in, it doesn't pull out. Just a little quality of life improvement. I did think that's quite good. But other than that, it's the same battery. It's the same battery. Yeah, the clip's a great idea. Genuinely, just a couple of nice little quality of life upgrades. The strap is a bit weird on the goggles, something I didn't mention earlier. Strap is a bit strange. So it has this folding over bit here, and it's then got this like double bit there, but that now means I can't put a bloody battery thing on here. Or I'm going to have to design one which goes over that section, which is a bit frustrating. It's nice quality, but it's just a bit weird. I preferred... It's just not great. Now, I did do the head tracking. I'll have some footage of that. So look, you can see that's that wobble of my head is me doing the head tracking, okay? So I'm looking down, I'm looking up, I'm looking side to side. I was just having a go with it just to see what it's like. So the Goggles 2 have head tracking built in. Now, I do fly up here a little bit. And I fly looking down in the bushes just to have a look at what it's like. Flying side on. Just to see how that looks. And I didn't go too low here. I normally go quite low around here. But I went sort of higher just so I could sort of look around a bit. And I think by here I thought, oh, I'll look down to see how it is there. I think I looked down that gap there. I thought, oh yeah, let's have a look down there, shall we? Yeah, let's go down there. It's quite crazy when you do it. You sort of look around and go. I was like, this is weird. That was a very quick flight. You're sort of trying to get your head around how it works. So you're like, okay, that's weird. This is just that same area where I was a lot lower and I just flew it round. You're really quite happily flying low with that motion controller as well. Now, I will have Goggles footage of this, actually. The weird thing is, because you're not flying on the sticks, you're sort of trying to gauge where you're going. And you're like, okay, where am I putting this? Where am I going to... We don't really know motor size. Height of your head. The image quality is just... Do I get motion sickness? I don't. Material are the arms made of? Plastic. Whatever plastic this is, it's absolutely solid plastic. Now, yes, there is no frame for that part available, but it looks bonkers solid. Bonkers solid. It genuinely does. You can see it's ribbed inside. The motors are black. There's no indication of what KV they are. That's it from underneath. Does it? Yes, it does work with the V2 goggles. And we're going to talk about that because there is a bit of a PSA I need to give you on that in a minute. So that is something we'll talk about in a second. If we just unplug the battery. Weight of the battery. I've not got scales in here. I'll have a look on the website. It'll be on the website. No, at the moment, as far as we're aware, it doesn't work with the smart controller. All of the main board and stuff is down in the bottom here. And it's actually, I don't know if you've seen, when you watch the DJI video, there's like a big square in here where everything is inside. Everything is inside. So, underneath, antennas are located in each side here. OcuSync antennas, point down, located each side here, right? These are ridiculously solid. Honestly, genuinely, this thing is solid. You've got the VPS, TOF sensor, visual positioning sensors. Obviously, your props, you've got your camera mounted down the front here, which we'll look at in a second. You've got your antennas in there. Flipping it over, you've then got your main outer frame, which you can change, the main subframe, which you can't. The 2 bits you can change is this grey bit here. The plastics are just ridiculous. They are genuinely absolutely solid. I tell you what these plastics feel like. They feel like the plastics used on high-grade tool handles. So, you know when you buy really good quality screwdrivers and things like that? They feel like them. That's what the plastic... genuine. This is not DJI's usual crap. Genuinely. This is... Look how thin that is, right? Okay, so you can see how thin that is down there. It's not even full thickness, look, because they got cutouts. It is absolutely solid. Genuinely, it is absolutely... Like, you can see the pressure on my fingers there. That's shaking because I'm putting that much pressure on it. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. It's really good. And then you've got the frame at the back there, which goes down to the GPS unit, and then the camera down there. And it's actually cool. You can see the wiring for the camera there as well, and then the gimbal, just 2-axis. Up and down. Okay, let me get the V2 thing out the way. I do need to give a bit of a warning on the V2. So if you have the V2 goggles, they are compatible with the Avata drone. So V2 goggle users, your goggles with a new firmware update, which is now available, are compatible with the Avata drone. However, upgrading that firmware comes at a price. And that price is this. If you have already routed your goggles to be able to use with the FPV WTF hacks on WTF OS, that will not work on the new firmware. The route actually stays. If you pre-route the goggles before updating the firmware, the route remains, but you will not be able to have the custom OSD or the FPV OS or WTF OS. That isn't available yet. Now, that isn't to say the guys can't do it, but they're trying to get the current system sorted. Give them some time. It's not... I know everyone's going, but what if? They'll look at it. Give them a chance. Oh, here he is. Junus is here. Give them a chance. They're trying to get the current thing tied down. And then they'll move on to it. But just be warned, if you upgrade, you will lose. But if you want to, what my advice is this. If you have to, route your goggles. If you have to upgrade, do it. And that way, hopefully, they'll have a solution for you in the future. Motor size KV, we don't know. The problem is that it's not in the spec. DJI don't publish the spec of their motor KVs. We don't know. We genuinely don't know. It's hard to say because we don't know. We just don't know. That I can't tell you. We can work out the size. We can, size-wise, we can work out the size. The bell is 18.5 wide by 9.5. The bell is 18.5 by 9.5 from the looks of it. Yeah. 18.5 by 9.5. Yeah, potentially 1608s, because you're going to have a bit on it. 1806s. You know, 18.31 on the outside there. let's count the motor poles.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Definitely 14. There you go, 14 poles. I bet Brother Hobby 1507s.
So as you've seen, I've pretty much covered everything I have to say. Now, there is just one other thing I want to touch on, and that is display scaling. As I mentioned in this review, I don't particularly find the optics very good. I find it difficult to see the whole screen. It doesn't ever go into full focus for me, and there's definitely glaring. Now, there is a display scaling option in these goggles, which I couldn't find earlier on, but it is definitely there, or at least it is there now. By doing that, you have the ability to scale the display out and look at a smaller field of view. That will, though, result in a reduction in resolution, but I have to admit, I don't think it's particularly noticeable when you use them. Now, you can use that option to bring the display out and actually see the whole screen, but I still find I'm getting glaring on the menu options, and the optics still are not perfect for me. So no matter what I do, they are still not as good as I've had on other systems. I do think, as I've said, the goggles form factor is amazing, but I do think they have got the optics on these wrong, and I think it is something that many people will have an issue with. I found more and more people mentioning about the fogging, and more people talking about the optics issues as well. Anyway, that's it from me. I just wanted to mention that. If you have found this video interesting, please do make sure you're subscribed, because we will be making more content in the future. As I've said at the start, if you'd like to support us, there are links to my Patreon in the description. I want to say a massive thank you to all of my Patreons. I would not have been able to make any of the content on this product, including many of the others, without their support as well. Anyway, that's it from me. Stay safe. I will speak to you soon.